Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Bob Jacobson. I'm the Commissioner of Public Safety, and it's my honor to serve in that capacity. I want to thank you all for being here today and welcome everyone to the Department of Public Safety's State Emergency Operations Center. Hosting the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency of us on air quality the spring and summer seasons is yet another demonstration of how state agencies work together to keep Minnesota on issues and events that affect us all. To our Commissioner, Katrina Kessler, and our colleagues at the MPCA, thank you for the continued collaboration. As always, we at DPS stand ready to assist in any way needed in the coming months. So now, to kick off that meeting, I'll turn it over to the Governor of the state of Minnesota, Governor Walz. Governor?
Thank you, Commissioner. Appreciate it. Well, for all of you, welcome to our Homeland Security Emergency Management Center. Hopefully, this will be one of the final briefs we end up doing here before our new ones open next spring. But the working condition here, and some of you have seen this. You've seen this when this room is full and every phone line is on. The charts are up. All of the screens are running. It's because there's a plan to deal with things. This year, we did not have to roll out that plan for flooding because of the low snowpack. Thankfully, we have had the rain because that goes right into the next season, whether it be tornado and severe storms, or in the case we're here today to talk about air quality. And we were just discussing before coming out here is this is a science that has evolved immensely over the years, and it's one that impacts a lot of people. And if you have kids with asthma, or if you yourself have it, you know that last summer was brutal. It was those hazy days full of smoke, and you saw a record number, we'll hear from our meteorologist, a record number of those dealing with mostly Canadian wildfire smoke, but some of our own last year. Grateful to the legislature. We put in about $6 million in aviation infrastructure to fight our own wildfires here at home, because with changing climate, the expectations and the forecasts are we're going to see more of this. So this is going to be a normal thing that we do in years to try and prepare for that wildfire season, to try and get some heads up on what is going to potentially manifest itself around these air quality days, and then get some words, and we have some experts here who can help us out on the health side of things. What are some of the precautions we can do, or what can we expect to see? So it's an important tool that we use. Again, I always talk about it with when it comes to flooding, that our emergency management services, we do not reinvent the wheel every year. There are specific things that go into play, and this year we wanted to just show that that holds true too for these air quality alerts, how they're done, how we come to that conclusion, how they're put out, and how the public should respond to those. So grateful you're all here to cover this. It's something that the public does need to know, and unfortunately I think it's something we're going to have to deal with going forward, just because of the nature of the unpredictable climate that we're seeing. With that, I'd like to turn it over to Commissioner Kessler from the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency.
Thank you, Governor Walz, for joining us for this important annual event. I'm Katrina Kessler, Commissioner of the Minnesota Pollution Control Agency. I want to extend a sincere thank you to Commissioner Jacobson and the rest of the staff here at the Emergency Operations Center for hosting us for this important kickoff. Special thanks to MPCA meteorologist Matt Tartleson, who can provide a preview of the air quality conditions that Minnesotans can expect this summer. And as you've heard from the governor, we all recall the haze that blanketed our skies for seems like endless days last summer, and the smell and the taste of the wildfire smoke drifting down mostly from Canada. And we felt the impact of the smoke and the ozone across communities, whether it was canceled soccer games or outdoor events, canceled gatherings with neighbors, or concerns over family members or neighbors who had air quality related impacts to their health. And 2023, unfortunately, was a record-breaking year for the number of air quality alert days issued by the MPCA. And wildfires are becoming more frequent and larger in the summer months in both the U.S. and in Canada, in part due to climate change. Warmer days, warmer winters, fewer days of lake ice, and storms with more unpredictable and more dynamic intensity, humid heat waves are all changes that we can expect to unfortunately see more of in the coming years. And these things threaten the things we love the most, the identity of Minnesota. Our homes, our lakes, our rivers, our cold weather traditions, and our sunny, vibrant summers are at stake. To keep Minnesota a great place to raise a family, we must prepare for these changes. That's why our state government is collectively advancing the Climate Action Framework, which is our plan to reduce greenhouse gas pollution and prepare for the impacts of climate change. We are investing in grant programs to reduce greenhouse gas emissions and to help communities across the state prepare for extreme weather and protect citizens. MPCA, with the leadership of the Walz-Flanagan administration and help from the legislature, is awarding $100 million to local governments to update their community infrastructure with a climate-smart design. Rest assured that each day, 24/7, MPCA meteorologists are closely monitoring Minnesota air quality and posting daily forecasts on our air quality webpage. You will find information such as the region's primary pollutant, predicted fine particles, and forecasted ozone. The resource gives Minnesotans a clearer understanding of their region's daily air quality through accessible, understandable data so that people can make the best decisions for their own health when poor air quality threatens our regions and our routines. Leading this work is MPCA meteorologist Matt Tartleson, who will walk through in greater detail what's in store for this summer.
Hello, everybody. My name is Matt Tarleton, and I am the supervisor of the Risk Evaluation and Air Modeling Unit at MPCA. We are the team that forecasts air quality for the state and issues air quality alerts. Before I wanted to get started, I wanted to talk a little bit about what we actually forecast, and that's the Air Quality Index, or the AQI as I'll call it from here on out. The AQI is developed by the Environmental Protection Agency, the EPA, and it takes the concentration of ground level ozone and fine particle pollution, that's what's in wildfire smoke, and converts it to an easy to understand number. That number is unitless, but it's then categorized by different colors that represent the different level of impacts. Our team will issue air quality alerts if those impacts exceed the orange, or unhealthy for sensitive groups level, or higher. At orange level, the unhealthy for sensitive group, air quality impacts will impact people who have underlying health conditions such as asthma. But as you go up the AQI scale, the red, purple, or maroon, that will start to impact everyone in the general public. And as you go higher into the scale, the impacts of air quality pollution will onset faster and faster. Before I dive into the 2024 season, I want to go back and talk a little bit about the 2023 season. As both the commissioner and the governor have said, 2023 was an unprecedented year for air quality. Our team issued 22 air quality alerts that covered 52 calendar days. Of those, 16 alerts came from the fine particle pollution from wildfire smoke. 6 came from ground level ozone that was also influenced by that wildfire smoke. And of that, we had 13 orange level alerts and 9 red level alerts. As you can see on the graphic here, the impacts of those air quality alerts stem the entire state. And unfortunately, it became part of many Minnesotans' daily ritual where they got up and they checked the air quality index to see, could their kids play outside? Would it be safe for them to go for a run, things like that. And so we definitely noticed that, and it was something that we worked really hard to try to get the messaging out and keep the alerts going. By and large, the influence or the impact that came from the air quality impacts that came from last year stemmed from items in events that came outside of Minnesota, namely the Canadian wildfires. And so the 2023 season in Canada, the wildfire season in Canada, doubled the previous record from 1995. A massive amount of area burned in Canada. And not only was the fires widespread, they were very intense, and when that happens, it lost more smoke into the atmosphere, and that smoke can travel a very long distance. And so it was really something unprecedented, and most of the issues we had here in Minnesota stemmed directly from those wildfires. As the map here points out, the Canadian wildfires were not a single event. They were across the entire country. They lasted for months, and in Minnesota we were impacted first from smoke from Ontario fires and then from Quebec fires, and then eventually later in the season from fires as far away as the Northwest Territories. And so anytime we had northerly wind, that smoke would be transported in. The meteorology favored that smoke would then be pushed down to the ground, and that's what led to all of those air quality alerts. While the team was also busy issuing those air quality alerts and doing forecasts, we also did some behind-the-scenes work. We now have a new AQI website that has live updating AQI information as well as our daily forecasts that go out 3 days. We also converted from our old point-based forecasts, which just had individual cities, to a graphical forecast that now covers the entire state. So all Minnesotans, regardless of where they live, if they're near an air quality sensor or not, can click the information and get that forecast as well as the current conditions to the sensor that's closest to them. This is something that the team had been working on for many years, and it just so happened that we had put this out just a couple months before the busiest season on record, and we got a lot of good feedback about those changes. So now moving on to some of the changes that we're doing now for the 2024 season. The first big one actually comes from our partners at the EPA. So the Environmental Protection Agencies reduced the number of the particles rather that go into the air quality index calculation. So they dropped that yellow or moderate down. So now we're going to have a lot more yellow or moderate air quality index days across the state. The orange, the cutoff for our alert, our unhealthy for sensitive level, has not changed, and that will not lead to an increase in air quality alerts. But there's been some changes to the upper level of the scale, so I do anticipate that we'll see more purple air quality alert days just because the concentration required to get there has been dropped by the EPA. The EPA guidance has also indicated that there is an impact of air quality and smoke, especially less than 24 hours. And so right now the air quality index covers a 24-hour average for fine particle pollution or an 8-hour maximum for the ground level ozone. Going forward, starting this year, when we have multiple hours of one color but a daily average that is less, so for instance, a daily average of orange but 3 hours of purple in the afternoon, our alerts will carry that purple wording for very unhealthy just to articulate who will be impacted and for what duration. We also will include timing and changes for impact information so that people know when they can go outside and when they can do the activities that they so enjoy, and when would be a good idea to avoid those activities. Again, this will not change the frequency of the air quality alerts. It will just sharpen how we communicate these impacts to people, and again, will make our alerts more usable for the general public. We also changed some of the air quality alert or AQA text products. In 2022, we put statements in the alerts that advise people what they can do to reduce their impacts. People's impacts or activities do impact air quality. We tell people, reduce their travel if they can, don't have outdoor fires during an air quality alert, things like that. That was added in 2022, and in 2023, we had the first alert that coincided with a heat warning here in the Twin Cities. We reached out to our partners at MDH, and on the fly, we introduced new wording to highlight the impacts that both heat and air quality together will pose to people. And so this was a new one. We've never had this before, and it's something that we kind of did on the fly, but will retain if we need it in the future. Finally, we also added in wording, especially for ozone. Ozone tends to peak in the afternoon and early evening, and it's low in the morning. And so if we can put that in an alert and tell people when they can go outside, that's what we're going to do going forward. Doesn't always work with wildfire smoke days where the whole day is smoky, but we'll do the best we can as the weather allows. The call to action statements actually are here on the screen of what they look like. Again, the big thing we want to draw the attention to is that when there is a heat warning and an air quality alert into effect, the impacts will be disproportionately large to just a heat warning or just an air quality alert. That's something we haven't had to deal with before here in Minnesota, and that's a new one, likely because of climate change. So now, on to the big show, the 2024 outlook. The takeaway I really have here is that 2024 looks to be an above average season, but not as bad as 2023. The ozone outlook, this morning the Climate Prediction Center updated their outlook for the summer. They're forecasting above average or below average rainfall and above average temperatures. That would lead to more ozone days because ozone needs sun and warm temperatures to form. So we're forecasting a slightly above average ozone days of 2 to 4 days rather, which is above our average of 2 to 3. Again, because things will be slightly warmer, that will fuel the ozone, and ozone is particularly impactful in the afternoon and will also impact suburban areas. So a lot of people think that the core of the Twin Cities is where ozone will happen, but it actually forms in the core of the urban areas and then falls out in the suburban areas. So the suburban Twin Cities Metro and Rochester are our usual areas that see impacts from ozone. For wildfire forecasts, this one is another tricky one. So we again are forecasting an above average fire season. Not taking into account 2023, we issue about 5 to 7 of these alerts a year. If we factor in 2023, that number goes way up. But we are forecasting above 7 alerts this year, which is above average. But we have increasing confidence that the season is not going to be as catastrophic as 2023. At this point last year in 2023, we already had fires raging in Canada. Parts of Canada near the Arctic Circle are above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. We're not seeing that this year, which is good signs. So the early fire season has been quiet, but it's not something we can let our guard down on. In June, if there's a dry period and drought expands, which it could do, that will fuel more wildfires and more smoke. I also wanted to talk a little bit about climate change because our team has fielded a ton of questions the past couple years about that. There's little doubt from our team that there is some element of climate change at play here. But the 2023 season was really an outlier. It was really strongly influenced by a very strong El Nino pattern that has since dissipated. And the combination of both climate change and then that extreme El Nino pattern is really what pushed not only the weather patterns to drive the prolonged wildfire season, but also the jet streams and other air currents that pushed that smoke from Canada down into Minnesota and pushed it down to the surface. So I want to reiterate that, again, although we're forecasting an above average season, we're not forecasting the same type of severity as 2023. We still feel that's an outlier, but we still are going to be monitoring that very carefully, and we still want people to be paying attention to the air quality. So with that, I will turn it over to question and answer. For anyone that's here, I will move over if anyone has questions for someone that's not me, but otherwise I'm happy to take any questions that anyone...
We have Jesse Carr here too from MDH.
Oh yeah, and we have Dr. Jesse Carr here from MDH. Yeah, who can answer much better any health impact questions than I can. So.
Any on-topic input here?
Can you talk more about the science on, when we drive down the highway and we see the reduced trip alert warning during that ozone?
Yeah.
Are we actively contributing much more than what wildfire? I was always a little confused.
Yeah, we are. You are. So ozone is actually created when you take volatile organic compounds, which is the stuff in car exhaust and factory exhaust. It gets baked by the sun, and then it turns from that volatile organic compound into ground level ozone and settles down, and that can hurt our lungs. In Minnesota, last year it was weird because the wildfire smoke had a lot of those VOCs in there. We don't usually see that. But yes, otherwise, beyond what happened last year, the biggest source of those is likely car exhaust in the state. So when we tell people to reduce their trips, especially on ozone days, and ozone is something you can't smell or see, that's why we say it. It reduces the amount of those precursors that will then form ozone, and so if you can reduce your trips, you cut down on that, and that actually does help. It's kind of a double-edged sword for our team. People will do that, and then our forecast won't be as good because that number will go down, but it's what we want to see.
Any others? All right.
Thank you, Dr. Dorson.
Yeah?
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Governor, can I ask an off-topic?
Sure we will.
Yeah.
Matt will be glad to answer it. I thought you were going to quiz me about the AQI index number. Go ahead.
No, just your opinion of that?
Yeah, well, it's. I'm glad Minnesota has went through the process. We got a new flag coming that's inclusive of everyone. I know that they're ready to go. They'll go up at the governor's residence on Saturday morning, and we'll start flying that thing. The new seals will be then in use, and just like all the jurisdictions, the states the same way. This will be kind of a rollout as we update stationary, update those things. We'll start to pull in that, but I'm excited to see it. I think it's one that's very identifiable, and we're not part of that blue mass of seals in the middle of 20 some other states. So,
All right.
yes.
Yeah. Hi, Governor. Have there been any breakthroughs in bonding bill negotiations?
They're still working it. I think exchanges and offers are going back and forth, which is still healthy, and that's a good sign. We got about 10 days or so here left, but I think we're getting closer. I still am pushing that, maintaining, and one of the things is you're not going to get a whole lot of members of the legislature looking at statewide, making sure we keep up infrastructure that we already have. So I was very heavy on that. I was put out 42% or so of the bonding bill I put out was to maintain state assets where they're at. Certainly willing to compromise on that, but I think an offer that was put back a few days ago was way too low on that. So just so you know kind of what's happening here, there's compromise and there's real work happening, and I think we'll reach a good middle ground.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, folks. Thank you for that.